Jared Polin, Fro Knows Photo.com, here with the second part of the super secret project, talking about backlighting. If you missed part one, click up here on the screen, and on YouTube you will get taken to part one where you see me actually shoot these images. But what I want to do in part two is just talk about the settings, try to get you to visually think about how these settings are affecting your images and what you could do to get better images. How many times did I just say images? So you could get better pictures with backlight or extreme lighting situations like this one. And secondly, I want to edit the raw files. I'm going to tweak each one of these files and see if we can bring it back to somewhere that's usable, because the raw file has that much power. So looking at this first image, you can see the sun up top. Huge fireball. Really interesting, shooting right into the sun. They tell you shouldn't do that, but I did it to make a point. And the meter is reading at 1/5000th of a second at f4, ISO 200, 26 millimeters. The reason I shot that wide is because I wanted to get the sun in the frame so that the meter was reading for the sun. Do you see how dark the image is? That's because the sun is so overpowering that that's what the meter is reading, and it thinks that it has to compensate for that by going with a faster shutter speed. So what you want to notice when you're looking through a camera, and this is one of the tips that I tell a lot of people, especially when I'm at concerts, if you're looking through the camera and you see something that says, you know it's dark out or dark in the venue, and you see something that says 2,000th of a second, 4,000th of a second, you know that you're getting a false meter reading, or it's probably a good meter reading, but it's off the lights. That's not a place where you want to meter. So you could do spot metering on Kermit's face. You could go into manual and do something. Rule of thumb for me is when I'm in a situation, I'll take that test image and then I'll see what I've got, and then I will literally cut in half at least the exposure to see if that does anything, and then keep going further back until I get where I want it to be. And being that I have the raw file, I'm gonna be a little closer and still have the ability to edit it and get it to where I want. So let's see what we could do to edit this file if we could even bring it back. I mean, just adding fill light kind of brought it back. Then I'm going to add the contrast to bring it back. We didn't even touch the exposure, which would have worked, but even at 200, look at what happens when you try to bring everything back. You get noise, you get different things like that, but really, wow, that did it right there. That fill light worked pretty well. What could we do with exposure? Even if I went with exposure, then less fill light, some contrast, I think it looked better with the fill light. So let's bump up the fill light a little bit. Well, that's a lot. Go with the contrast. Actually, I think it's going to end up evening out. Nope, it's going to be better bumping up the fill light and not going too far with the exposure. So you can see how far we were off, and we still got back to an image that if it was the last resort and you needed something, we just saved it. We just saved the image. That's what it was exactly out of the camera. That's where we put it right now, and you can see power of the RAW. So moving into the next image, we went from a 1/5000th of a second to 1/1250th of a second. I believe I was on spot metering at this time, so you can see that the meter did better because I blocked the sun out slightly. And I'll call them back. But I blocked the sun out slightly and got a different reading. Spot metering right for Kermit's face. So you can see it's already better. The exposure, we don't have to go that far to bring this image back because it's already there. Really just a little bit of contrast, and there you go. That's a little bit too far. A little bit more fill light. I mean, and that's not terrible at all. So you can see we've kind of come back to the same place. Even with different exposures, you just had to bring one back a little differently. Then I switched into manual exposure, and this is what I got. So I'm losing detail in the sky, but that's what's going to happen when you're metering for this person right here. Because you're metering for them, the shutter speed is different. I'm just going to pull back on the exposure. It just shows you I was a little over there, maybe even a little under, but here we go. Bringing it back. So I didn't even need to use fill light this time, but obviously I lost a lot of what was going on in the sky, which you could technically bring back using this recovery button, which I did right there slightly, but you lose a little bit of punch in the whole image. So yeah, that came back pretty well. So you see what I did is I went in and I changed my own exposure. The sun is in the picture in the background, and I went from 12/50th of a second to 6/40th of a second myself. So I chose to go into manual exposure, not manual focus, but just manual exposure to take back the shutter speed and make it to where I want it. And then I went even further to 400th of a second. You can see that it's not as good. It's still under. And I just pump up my contrast. I'm going to add a little bit of yellow in here, and boom, we're even close. You know, even there, it's still a good file. Then Kermit sitting in the chair. I just used the same exposure for the next, well, for this one as I did on the photo before, just to show you now that I've gotten it locked in, I can use it each time, and then now I can process it. Really just pumped up the contrast in this one, and the photo pretty much comes together exactly how I wanted it. And then I cut back the exposure again for some odd reason. Didn't need to. But, you know, the contrast, you see how it's hazy? A good way to cut out of this haze, because this is usually what happens when you get the flare or lights in the background or smoke when you're shooting concerts. Pump up the contrast, pump up the black levels. The haze is all gone. That's where it was. This is where it's at. So you can see how, you know, you're pretty close within a stop with this raw file. You can tweak a little bit. And then even further off at a 4,000th of a second, showing you if we metered for that other thing, this is going to definitely be more difficult. But let's go with some exposure. We'll go with some fill light. We're going to go with some contrast. I'm going to go back to a little bit of exposure. You can see a little bit of noise forming, even though we shot at 200 ISO. But if it was the last resort and this was all you had to deal with to get the photo, to get the job done, 9 out of 10 times, most people won't even think twice about saying, wow, you got the exposure wrong and this was where it was at to begin with. I don't think this detail would be there like this if it was just a JPEG file. And I know this isn't about RAW versus JPEG, but again, just showing you the power of what is there, and that's about it. So I hope you learned something in part 2 about the backlight. One was cool, actually seeing me go out there and shoot it. But I like to also, just to give you a visual representation full on the screen so you can see the settings right up here as they were shot, and then how the images could be corrected if mistakes were making. Wow. If mistakes were made. That's about it. Jared Poland, FroKnowsPhoto.com. See ya!